If you make small steps of progress every single day, then the destination is inevitable, as long as you're still alive. I'm Daniel Winnington, the Chancellor at Wizard Academy and Whiskey Marketing School. That is a quote that was said to me my first year here at Wizard Academy in 2013 by Roy Williams, who founded this whole campus. It's when I showed up to kind of take over running the Wizard Academy as Vice Chancellor, and I don't remember what was happening. I was working on some project that felt like there's no way. This is such a big thing, and I'm chipping away at it, and it's just, there's no way. And Roy said, look, if your only job is get up, make some progress on it, and go home. That's it. Stop measuring shit. And just, if you resolve that you're going to keep doing that until it is done and accomplished, then it's inevitable. You might make some forward progress, some backward progress. You might make a little more progress. You might pause. Then you might make more progress again. But as long as you determine that you're not going to put a deadline on when you should accomplish this thing by, or you failed, and you just relentlessly chip away at it, then the destination is inevitable. He also said you can accomplish almost anything if you remove deadlines and relentlessly pursue the destination. Now, there are some things that have deadlines that you just can't help. Studying for a test, preparing to pass a certification, filing your taxes. Sure, yeah, fine. But I mean the bigger goals, right? Career goals, life goals, relationship goals, these things. If I want these things to happen, if you just take off deadlines and just say, I'm going to get there. When? Don't know. But I'm gonna. And each day I get up and I'm going to make progress towards that goal. Then the destination is inevitable. I have lived with that idea since I got to campus, which is that at a place like this, man, there are 1,000 things that I could be doing with my time every day. And it can feel overwhelming. Like, I just came in, I worked for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10, sometimes 15 hours in a day. And I go home and what have I really done? It doesn't feel, it's like hiking when you're like, oh my God. But then every once in a while while you're hiking and you think this is forever, this 4-mile trail, I feel like I'm never gonna get there. And then at some point you stop to take a break and you turn around and you go, oh my God, we are way higher than I thought we were, right? That's how most things are. And so I teach this to my staff. It's just look, if this is important enough, then just every day that you're here, chip away at it. And at the end of this year, you'll look back and we'll have made significant progress. Those phrases roll around my head a lot as we've hit 2025. And I'm thinking into what's important to me and what do I want and what are we doing next in my own life and at Wizard Academy. Sometimes a deadline can give you a sense of urgency and help motivate you, but if you reach a deadline and you haven't achieved it, what are you going to do? You going to stop? Because if you are, then you shouldn't have made that goal. You shouldn't have had that hope, yeah? I was about 15 years into pursuing a full-time music career, right? And doing it. When someone in my life during a discussion said, so exactly how long do you plan on doing this? And I mean, looking back, that was one of the first true death bell rings of that relationship. And that sentence caught me off guard because the answer was never, death. That's when I'm going to stop doing this. But it put this idea in my head that maybe it was irresponsible and maybe I should give up on that thing and do something more adult and you've got a family, man, and you got to figure this out now. And it put a whole bunch of doubts in my head. And so without realizing it, I sort of put a clock on it in my head. I'm well, I'll give this another couple of years and we'll see how it goes. And that was really one of the main contributing things to me walking away from a full-time music career. Now, look, I don't regret it, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But like, I should have in that moment held that question up and just rested it against my heart and asked if it resonated or made sense. But I didn't. I gave into all the fears that, imposter syndrome people have when you're like, yeah, who are you to think you deserve a career in music? Who are you? You should just give up and be responsible and get a job and provide and all the, and we were surviving, but we weren't rich. And that sort of ended it. Now I ended up at Wizard Academy, but like it put a clock on it. I sometimes look back at that and think like, was that the right call? I don't know. I'm going to talk about the rest of that in a second. First, we're going to drink Glenglassaugh. This is a gift from Jack Stewart, one of the instructors in whiskey school. Badass whiskey human being. Glenglassaugh is a distillery that dates back to like 1800s. It's this old distillery. It was bought up. It went in and out of existence and paused and brought back. And it was bought by Brown-Forman in 2016, along with Benriach Glendronach and this sort of like family of distilleries. It's now under the guidance of Rachel Berry, who I follow her work and really love what she's doing in the whiskey industry. And assistant blender, according to this one, Kirsten Ainsley, I think I'm pronouncing that right. And this is a new release of their core range. This is a Speyside distill or Highland. They call it Highland, but I'm gonna go off of what they want to call it on their bottle. It's a Highland malt. And Sandend. This is one of the 30 of their new core line. And I really loved what happened with Benriach and Glendronach. I did not spend a ton of time exploring Glenglassaugh when it was sort of revived for real in 2016. I liked what I had. I think there was was that the one that had evolution? And anyway, there was some cool things going on, but I sort of like put all my emotional energy into Benriach and Glendronach, and that's where I fell. And I sort of walked away from Glenglassaugh as a regular encounter. So I was really excited when Jack brought this whiskey, and it's their new labeling and bottling, and I love the new art and stuff, to see what's happening with the new things. I'm going to tell you what they mean by Sandend in a second, but on the nose. Ooh. Super perfumey peaches and pear. But like if peaches and pear were made into a really dense, heady perfume. Very fruity, but soft and light and sweet. I like this. This is everything I love about a light touch, malty, fruity product. It's not as sweet, overly sweet, like some of the sort of sickly sweet Speysides can get sometimes, with a really heavy emphasis on the bourbon cask part of the component, where you get a lot of vanilla and a lot of candy instead of a lot of more of the fruits. And when you do have the fruits, they're just all glazed in sugar. It's got a little more character than that. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Guys, this reminds me of the old Longmorn 16. I need to do an A-B comparison with the old one. It's a little sweeter than the old Longmorn 16, like not the current, there's old. The brown and green bottle Longmorn 16. The one that I fell in love with Scotch because of it. Holy crap. It has a similar beautiful fruit and bouncing sweetness and pastry, but then there's this light, almost black peppery, spicy note at the very end of the finish. Son of a, if it's not totally ringing the bell of the old, young and youthful Longmorn 16. So the thing that I loved about the old Longmorn 16, that the newer Longmorn 16, which has also been discontinued now, lost, was the newer Longmorn 16 had older whiskey in it. And I always thought that the younger whiskey that was in the original Longmorn 16 that I experienced gave it this sort of vitality and vibrance. And I don't know how old this whiskey is. It's a non-age statement release. But it has that super fruit bomb, tropical, and then peach pear and honey, and then the barley. But then it has this little sort of like zing at the end that's not quite black pepper, but it's got a sharpness to it. And gosh, I like this a lot. So this is bourbon barrel. They say bourbon barrel, sherry barrel, manzanilla barrel. Now, manzanilla is a sherry, if I remember correctly. It's just specifically a sherry from Andalusia in southern Spain. And it can only be called manzanilla if it comes from this specific region. Manzanilla is the Spanish word for chamomile. And so if you Google manzanilla, you'll see a lot of chamomile products. But if a manzanilla barrel in the wine industry is this sherry from this specific region, and so it's technically, if you read it that way, this was aged in bourbon, sherry, and sherry, but it's specifically bourbon, sherry from who knows where, and manzanilla barrels. And it's because, I mean, maybe it's psychosomatic, but that area is coastal and it is sort of briny. But it has this sort of element of what I love about chamomile tea, which is that really heady, botanical. But it does have this sort of like briny, peppery, spicy note. Man, I'm a fan. 50.5% alcohol. I'm gonna add a little water just because, but like, ooh, that just came right out. I don't know. I might have just found a new go-to. So they're on the coast in the Highlands. Interesting. Okay. Sorry, my whole video plan in my head just froze because I really want to just stop everything, go to my office, find one of the bottles of the old Longmorn 16 that I have, and A/B compare this. But there's no way I can do that right now. I'll tell you what, if I'll do it later, and I'll post about it in the Whiskey Vault Facebook group and tell you what happened. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a little bit, but this is really cool. Great job, Rachel and Kirsten. This is a great blend. Yeah, okay. So, I don't really have regrets. I was just saying, I put a deadline on my music industry life, and then inevitably within a couple of years I had walked away, and there were other reasons. There was a lot going on in my world. There was a lot of weariness, and the job at Wizard Academy showed up at just the right time in my world, and I took it, and I have no regrets about where I am now and what that journey. And you guys, I wouldn't know if it wasn't for that journey. But I look back and I think, man, that was a pretty big consequence, right? That was a huge stone in the river, diverting me a totally different way. I'm older now, a lot older. And I've had more wisdom in the last few years being whispered into my ear than angry words. And as I'm in the first throes of this new year, I'm more concerned with figuring out what's important to me than in creating New Year's goals. This whole conversation came up because people are talking about New Year's goals. What's your goals for New Year? What's your goals for 2025? And I have some hopes and dreams for 2025. But I also realized I kind of want to return to like, you know what, forget that. What matters to me? Who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And forget the clock. If I just chip away at progress every day, forget the clock and the deadlines. I just want to start holding things up to my heart and figuring out which ones resonate. And then each day carve incremental progress towards that thing. This channel's one of them. I don't know what this is going to become. I don't know what new content we're going to try to create together. But each day I get up and I write new things for these episodes. And each week I sit down and make a little progress on moving forward, and that's enough. I don't need big grand releases and a whole new rewrite of the vision. I just want to chip away at things that I think matter and then see where that river path takes me. So in 2025, join me if you're of a like mind in making it less about coming up with a new agenda and more about incremental progress towards the things that matter to you, and remembering to periodically stop, look back, and see how far you've come. So here's to you and incremental steps, and me, and may your dreams be inevitable. The water brought the spice forward a little bit more. I actually like it a little bit more with water. I liked it without it. This is a great whiskey. What a great find. And cheers to you. I'm really glad you're here. Incremental small steps. They're important. I think a good one for us would be if you hit like and subscribe as an incremental step to help grow this channel.